Welcome back to East Coast Wagering. We're only a couple days away from the 147th edition of the Preakness Stakes. And today what I want to do is I want to break down the full 14 race card. I'm going to give you my selections for each of the races, and I'm going to give you a more detailed analysis starting in race 4 through 13, the Preakness itself. I'm going to start by going over the first three races, which are prior to the first stakes race in the fourth. I'm just going to breeze through these because I want to get to the meat of the card for the detailed analysis. In race 1, my top play is the 8 horse, Shackway. Looks like he's the best of the speed. He could jump out to a lead and never look back. I like how he won last out impressively in his first start for the new connections off the claim. I'm going to follow him up with the 7 Abuelo Pops, the 1 Spitball, and I also like the 3 Aliferous as a long shot play. So if you're constructing some vertical bets in that race, make sure you throw them in there underneath. In the second race, my top selection is the number 9 DeRapper. He failed as the favorite at 6 furlongs in his last out. He stretches back out where I think he's more effective. I'm going to follow him with the 6 Armando R and the 3 Gentleman Joe as my other selections that race. In the fourth race, my top selection is the morning line favorite, Evan Harlan, the number 4 horse. I like him off his class drop. He's got first-time Lasix. He picks up Sayas in the saddle. He looks the best on paper, and it seems like he's worthy of that 4-5 morning line odds. I'll follow him up with my other selections, the 5 Amarillo and the 8 Airspeed Velocity. Race 4 is the first stakes race on the card, and it's the Grade 3 Maryland Sprint, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. It's a 7-horse field, and it looks competitive, but my number 1 selection is Mr. Phil. He's coming out of an optional claimer in which both he and the 7-horse Jackson Traveler were involved. As my top selection, I like him because he's won 2 in a row since being claimed in February. He seems to be in peak form and can win at the distance. He has 5 wins and 19 tries. It looks like he could be the fastest in the field and could be dangerous if he gets loose on the lead. My second selection, as I mentioned, was also involved in this race, Jackson Traveler. He barely missed to my top choice in his last out, which you'll see at the wire in this one. He may benefit if a pace gets too hot and turns the tables on Mr. Phil. He picks up Rosario, loves the distance, and is 2 for 3 at the track. And my third selection is the number 4 horse, Disco Pharoah. I like the way that Disco Pharoah won 2 back to break his maiden by 19 lengths, and then followed that up with a win in Minor Stakes Company. He retains the services of Heavy in Toledo, who's probably the top jockey at the track, who rode him last out and stays on board for this effort. So again, my top 3 selections in this race, the Maryland Sprint, are the 6 Mr. Phil, the 7 Jackson Traveler, and the 4 Disco Pharoah. Race 5 is the Grade 3 Gallarette, going a mile and a 16th on the turf for fillies and mares. And my top selection here is the 7-5 morning favorite, Technical Analysis. You can see her here in her last out in the Plenty of Grace Stakes. It looks like she should be racing on the lead. She gets Jose Ortiz jumping back on board, which is a positive. Her trainer is Chad Brown, and he's tough to beat on the turf. He may actually be the toughest trainer in the country right now. It's the second off the layoff, so she could possibly move forward off of her last. And she's 3 of 4 lifetime at the distance, which I find appealing as well. And my second selection is the second choice, the 2-horse Crystal Cliffs. She gets Gaff Leone back on board after he guided her to the victory in the Sand Springs at Gulfstream. It looks like she's probably the top challenger to my top pick, Technical Analysis. And if the pace gets a little hot, I think the 2 Crystal Cliffs could actually be the one that benefits as a result of that. For my third selection, I'm going to go with Karakatsie, who's coming off a 10-month layoff, but it looks like prior to that, she did fit in this company. So if she can come back fresh off of that 10-month and race to the form that she was in before, I think that she could possibly hit the board as a nice price. So again, in the Grade 3 Gallarette, I have it the 4 Technical Analysis, the 2 Crystal Cliffs, and the 6 Karakatsie. Race 6, we come back out of Stakes Company for an allowance 58,000 non-winners of 1X. For fillies and mares on the turf, going a mile and a 16th. This is a very difficult race to handicap because it doesn't look like any of the horses here are standouts. Ultimately, I'm going to go with the 8-horse Murph as my top selection, who's only run 1 on the turf, but looked pretty good doing so last time out. You can see her here in an allowance race at Laurel. She ran well in that first try, where she stalked a pretty quick pace and just barely failed to hold off the closers. I think she could improve in her second race on the turf, especially stretching out a little bit longer, and it does look like the pace is going to set up a little bit better for her compared to the last time that she ran on the turf, and I think that she sets up better in this one compared to some of the other horses that look competitive. My second choice in this field is the number 9 horse Voladar. Now, she was looking pretty impressive prior to her last out on the dirt, where she completely tossed in a dud. I thought that she was improving with each and every race, and if she continues that form after the 5-month layoff, I think she's competitive in here. Again, I'm concerned a little bit about the 5-month layoff, but I do think she is well spotted and could make some noise in this race if she is ready for one back. My third choice is the 4 Kate's Kingdom. Now, Kate's Kingdom picks up Giroux in the saddle, and that's an upgrade for her in my opinion. It looks like she does prefer the turf, and if this pace does come up a little bit on the hot side, then I think that Kate's Kingdom is going to be the one that benefits from that with her closing kick. So again, the way I have it handicapped is the 8 Murph, the 9 Voladar, and the 4 Kate's Kingdom. I do recommend going deep if you're in the multi-races with this one because it does look wide open, and I don't think that covering at 3 is probably going to work. This is a pretty deep race, and this is the one you want to go deep in. The 7th race is the Skip Pat Stakes, going 6 furlongs on the dirt for fillies and mares. My number 1 selection in this one is the 8 Chitara. I think that the amazing value you're getting on this horse at 10-1, if she's anywhere near that, she's definitely worth a look. I'm throwing out her last race on the mud. I don't think that she took to the muddy track. It does look like she tried some longer races, but ultimately I think that she wants to go short, so this is going to suit her running style a little bit better in my opinion. She also gets an upgrade to Jose Ortiz, and at 10-1, or higher possibly, I think this horse is a great play on top. My number 2 selection is the 6 Scylla. Her last out was a Grade 1 race, the Grade 1 Madison, which you see here. She failed to menace in that one, but that was a very high quality field. And at this level, she has run consistently well. I think that she should get a nice stalking trip, and it doesn't appear to be much pace besides the number 2 Oksana. So it's possible that Scylla could be sitting right off of that, and it benefits her the best out of the rest of these horses. My third selection is the number 9 horse Time Limit. I think that if she runs back to the form she had 2 races ago, she could easily win this race. I think she fits in this company based off her recent dirt efforts, and I love her record at going this distance. In 6 attempts, she has 2 wins, 2 seconds, and a third. So again, the way I have this handicapped is the 8 Chitara, the 6 Scylla, and the 9 Time Limit. Race 8 on the card is the Grade 2 Dinner Party Stakes, going a mile and a 16th on the turf. And my top 2 selections are both coming out of the same prep race, the Grade 1 Maker's Mark, which you see here. Ultimately, I chose the 6 Atone as my top selection because he has 2 straight respectable efforts in Grade 1 races, and in the Maker's Mark, he finished 4th by a length. He should get a nice trip behind the leaders in what should be a moderate pace in this one, and I think that he'll get the jump on the morning line favorite Set Piece and could hold on for the win. As I mentioned, the 3 Set Piece is the other horse coming out of the Maker's Mark. It looks like he prefers a little bit of longer races compared to the mile that he's run in his last 3, so this does fit him a little bit better. His last 2 tries at this distance were both wins, including the Grade 2 Wise Dan. I think that he could also take another step forward and improve second off the 7-month layoff that he had prior to the Maker's Mark. My third selection is the number 1 Tango, who I like at the odds of 10-1. I do think that he's a little bit of a notch below the top 2 here, but he's my best of the rest in this one. I think that he could inherit the lead from the rail, and I do like that his best races are going around this distance. If he gets loose on an easy lead and the rest of the speed doesn't fire, I think that maybe that he could hold on possibly, or at least pick up the pieces of bottom half of exactas and trifectas. The 9th race on the card is the Grade 3 Chick Lang Stakes, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, specifically for 3-year-olds. My top selection is the number 7, Wayland Springs, who you can see here in his last out in the Bachelor Stakes at Oaklawn. He got up in the last strides over the number 1 in this race, Cogburn, for his 3rd straight win. He seems to be getting better with each and every start, and I love the way that his workouts to race mirror kind of the same fashion that they were prior to that Bachelor Stakes for this one. Arad Ortiz climbs on board, which can't possibly hurt his chances. He's one of the better jockeys riding here today. My second selection here is the number 5 Old Homestead, who's the 2-1 morning line favorite. He's 3-0 lifetime, and he's won by open lengths in each of his attempts. My main concern about this one is I think he could possibly get hooked up in a speed duel with the one-horse Cogburn because both of them are going to want the lead. But I think that his class still makes him as a major play in this particular field. My third selection is the 6 Chasing Time. The cutback in distance, the class relief, and I think that it's going to be a hot pace, as I mentioned before, all work in this one's favor, and at a nice price, I think this one does have a chance of possibly getting the win. So again, the way that I have this one is the 7 Wayland Springs, the 5 Old Homestead, and the 6 Chasing Time. Race 10 on the card is the James W. Murphy Stakes, going a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds. And this is an interesting field makeup because 2 of the horses in this race, the number 8 Shake 'em Loose and the number 10 Joe, both are coming off multiple dirt efforts, and both horses were actually rumored at one point or another over the last 2 weeks to possibly be in contention to run in the Preakness, but instead we find them in a turf race on the undercard. Ultimately, my number 1 selection, I'm going to go with the 7 Riot House, who you can see here in his last out in a $75,000 optional claimer at Gulfstream. He was a big favorite in this one and ultimately prevailed by 2 1/4 lengths as he drew off in the stretch. He did race very unrelaxed in the beginning parts of the race, so the fact that he only won by 2 1/4 as a 1-2 favorite shouldn't be too much of a surprise. He's 2 for 2 at the distance since the trainer changed during his layoff from June 2021 to March of 2022. I think he could take another step forward, which in my opinion makes him the one to beat in this one. My second selection is the number 5 Ready to Perform, who's obviously out of Kitten's Joy, and I have a soft spot for Kitten's Joy progenies running on the turf. So ultimately, I had to have this one in my selections. He's coming off a 6-month layoff. His last out, he didn't run great, but maybe I think that he wants to stretch out to longer distances, so the mile's going to suit him a little bit better. He's coming in fresh off of that layoff, and he is adding Lasix. He's picking up Giroux with the Giroux-Brad Cox combo, which is always a positive for any horse. And my third selection is the 3 Uncaptured Spirit. I like his only effort on the grass, and I think that he could possibly set a moderate pace here. My only question is, can he get the mile? If he can get the distance, then I think that this horse could score at a big price. Again, the way that I handicap this race is the 7 Riot House, the 5 Ready to Perform, and the 3 Uncaptured Spirit. Race 11 on the card is the Sir Barton Stakes, going a mile and a 16th on the dirt for 3-year-olds. And my top selection here is the number 1 horse, Ethereal Road. Ethereal Road tried the Kentucky Derby Trail unsuccessfully, and you can see him here in his last effort in the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland, where he finished a non-threatening 4th. He gets some class relief in this one. There was some talk that he was going to go in the Preakness, but I'm glad that they spotted him in this one instead because I think this does fit him a little bit better. There's not a whole lot of pace in this race, but I think that he can make an early run like we saw in the Rebel a couple back, which ultimately earned him 2nd place behind Unoho, and I think that that effort crosses the finish line first for him here. My second selection is the number 4 horse, the Addison Poor, who ran a nice figure in the last out, and I do think that this horse is on the improve. He gets the top jockey at the track on board, and I do love the value that you're getting on this one, and I do think he has a chance at a nice price. And my third selection is the number 8 Unikee, who I think is going to be forwardly placed in this one. It is his first attempt at a route race, but I don't think the distance is going to be an issue by the looks of it. I do like that he's going to be sitting close to the pace because I don't see a ton of speed here, and I do think that that helps his chances. As long as he doesn't go with the number 10 horse Ruggs and just sits off of that pace, I think this horse has a big chance. So the way that I have it in this one is the number 1 Ethereal Road, the number 4 the Addison Poor, and the number 8 Unikee. And the penultimate race prior to the Preakness is race 12, the Jim McKay Turf Sprint, going 5 furlongs on the turf. And my top choice here is the number 7 Grateful Bread. You see him here in his last out in the King Leatherberry Stakes, where he finished 2nd off a 6-month layoff. I think that he spotted the eventual winner a little bit too much in that one, and I think that he can improve off of that effort in this 2nd off the layoff. I love his 2 for 2 record as Pimlico, and he is 5 of 10 at the distance. With a lot of question marks in this field, with so many dirt to turf horses, I'm going to take this one as my top pick based on the consistency. My number 2 selection is the morning line favorite, the 2 horse Karakatsie. He's going to be the speed in this race, and if he runs his best effort, he could run out there and never look back to the rest of this field. He has a great record at this distance, finishing 15 of 20 in the money with 7 wins in 6 seconds. With that impressive record, I don't think that you can leave him out of your exactas and trifectas, and he's definitely a threat for the win. And my third selection is the number 3 horse, 7 Cents. He's 1 for 1 since being claimed in March and since Brad Cox took over training duties. He runs competitively every single time, and I do think that he fits in this company. And with the new jockey-trainer combo, I think that he could build upon his efforts in the previous minor stakes races that he was running in. So again, the way that I have this one in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint is the 7 Grateful Bread, the 2 Karakatsie, and the 3 7 Cents. And the 13th race is the big one, the one that everybody's here for, the Preakness Stakes. I'm going to show you the Kentucky Derby, which is the actual last race for 3 of the 9 in this one, including Epicenter, Simplification, and Happy Jack, who finished 2nd, 4th, and 14th respectively. My top selection is the favorite, the 6-5 morning line Epicenter. I think he definitely has the top chance in this field. It looks like if he runs his race and the 2 weeks rest isn't an issue, he is the best of these. Again, the 2 weeks could be an issue, but I don't see anyone in this field that can beat him if he does run his best. I think he's going to be more forwardly placed than he was in the Derby because of the slower than expected pace in this one. And I think that he should get the jump on any of the other horses. And ultimately, I just think that he's going to hold everybody off. His top competition in this one, in my number 2 choice, is the number 5 Early Voting, who's the 2nd choice morning line, but I think is probably going to go off the 3rd choice. Early Voting should be the speed in this one, and I don't think that there's really going to be anyone that presses him. There is some talk that Fenwick may go for it, but I just don't think that he's as quick as this one. I think that the pace scenario does set up for this one. He's got fresh legs as he skipped the Kentucky Derby, even though he had the points to get in, to run specifically here in the Preakness. I like his chances, and if anyone can hold off Epicenter, I think it's going to be Early Voting. And my 3rd selection is the number 2 Creative Minister, who's kind of the wild card in this one. He's coming out of an allowance race, and I do like the way that he won that quite convincingly. And the real question is, does he fit in this company? But I do think that if he does run to his potential, that he could be there. So ultimately, my top 3 selections are the 8 Epicenter, the 5 Early Voting, and the 2 Creative Minister. For a more detailed breakdown of this race, I do have a previous video where I go through all 9 of the horses that make up this field and give a little bit more detail into each of the 9. I'll post that in the comments section, so check that out if you're interested. And the last race on the card is race 14, the UAE President's Cup for Arabians going 1 1/16 on the dirt. I'm not sure if this race is going to be available for everyone to bet. I know previously I have not been able to bet Arabian races. I don't know if it's the platform that I'm wagering on or if it's because I'm in the state of Maryland and they break it down on a state-by-state basis, but I'm not able to wager on Arabians. So I'm going to give my selections here, but I actually don't think I'm probably even going to be able to bet on the race. My top 3 selections in this one are the 1, the 3, and the 6. They look like they're probably 3 of the favorites, but I mean, just looking at this field, and I don't know much about Arabians to be honest, it looks like some of these horses just aren't even close to winning these races. But again, I'm certainly not a pro when it comes to handicapping Arabians because I don't even really have the chance to. Those are my top 3 horses in each of the 14 races on the card. Hit the comment section and let me know what you think. Do you have any horses that you have listed that I don't in my top 3? Do you have any in my top 3 that you're very excited to bet like I am? I think a couple of these offer great value. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate everyone that has to this point. Every little bit helps. And share with your friends if they're horse racing enthusiasts as well. My name is Jeremy Pielmeyer. This is East Coast Wagering, and thanks for watching my video.